Father Malcolm MacDonell, who first conceived of the President's Gala partway through his 8-year term as president of StFX, spent nearly all of his life at this university. He received his degree here in 1938 before being ordained in 1945, and then undertaking postgraduate work at Queen's and the Pontifical Institute of Medieval Studies at the University of Toronto. All along, he was a faculty member in the StFX History Department, an appointment he held before he became Dean of Arts in 1964. Appointed president of the university in 1970, Father MacDonell would oversee one of the most tumultuous decades in StFX's history. By the early 70s, the outside world and all its chaos and political unrest had landed at our doorstep, and the old days of separating women from men and the faculty priests exerting significant control over students' lives were drawing to a close. Presenting further challenge was a significant change in government funding to universities. Despite these austere times, Father MacDonell stewarded StFX through several major building projects during his term. In the late 1960s, the need arose for a students' union building that would provide a home for the wide variety of student services and activities on campus. Then Students' Union President Frank McKenna shot for the moon and provided a list of amenities that such a building could house, including a large dining hall, a billiards room, a bank, bookstore, barbershop, student newspaper publishing room, and a small canteen. Soon a plan was conceived to construct a building into the hill so as to provide a transition between the higher and lower parts of campus. The Olin Centre now existed, as did McIsaac Hall, as well as the buildings we now call Cody McNeil. Life had come to lower campus, and the Students' Union asked for a so-called campus living room. By then, there were 2,000 students living on campus. In May of 1970, a formal contract was signed for $1.8 million, and construction began within a few days. When it opened on the 7th of November 1971, it was named in honor of a significant gift made by Bernard and Louis Bloomfield via the LD Foundation. In 1973, Mrs. Keeler Mackay donated a portrait of her late husband to be hung in the room dedicated to his memory. She wrote to Father MacDonell, "This would have filled his heart with glee. No one loved a party more than Keeler. May every youth who dines, dances, or dialogues in this hall live his philosophy of respect for every person and loyalty to whatsoever things are true." Father MacDonell also oversaw the renovation of the old gym, which had become unnecessary following the construction of the Olin Centre in the mid-60s. The nearly 6,000 square foot building had been constructed in 1916 as part of the major college expansion led by StFX benefactors Neil McNeil, John Summers, and Patrick Mockler, and would begin a new chapter as the home of the Drama and Speech Department and renamed in honor of Monsignor Cyril Bauer, a beloved priest and theatre director. Even after it became the Bauer Theatre, the home of Theatre Antigonish since 1974, the hockey changing rooms were still in its basement, as the hockey rink next door had no plumbing facilities. Since the 1960s, the university had identified a need for a biology building that would include classrooms, labs, a centrifuge room holding tanks, a frog room, and a herbarium. The plan soon expanded to include the home economics program and food science labs. But while Bloomfield was being constructed, the Provincial University Grants Committee, which had allowed for significant growth on campus in the 1960s, froze all funding. During the years it took to see the project come to fruition, construction costs doubled. The university also had to acquire the land for the building from the Sisters of St. Martha before constructing the 60,000 square foot building in 1974 and 1975 at a final cost of nearly $4.5 million, most of which came from the province of Nova Scotia. On the 9th of May 1976, the Life Sciences Building opened in honor of J. Bruce Brown, a devoted alumnus, a valiant soldier, an ardent student of Celtic culture, and a renowned benefactor. Father MacDonell gave Brown's eulogy in Montreal in 1973. The philanthropist had been awarded an honorary doctorate from StFX in 1971 and left StFX a significant sum of money, as well as a large collection of Scottish and Celtic books, in his will. Father MacDonell and his sister, Sister Margaret MacDonell, were a formidable pair on campus. Both fluent in Gaelic, she led the Celtic Studies department, and together they spent Sundays completing difficult crossword puzzles and many, many evenings cheering for their beloved Boston Red Sox. Father Malcolm died in 2015 at the age of 96, and Sister Margaret passed just 2 years ago at the age of 102. Father MacDonell was succeeded as president by the Reverend Dr. Gregory MacKinnon, a native of Antigonish and a 1946 graduate of StFX. He was appointed the university's spiritual director in 1954 and went on to be the chair of the theology department, a position he held while earning his PhD from the University of Ottawa. He became Associate Dean of Arts in 1973 and worked closely with Father MacDonell. When Father MacKinnon was selected as StFX's 15th president, the university, now co-educational, was transitioning into a new phase of life. By 1985, he'd helped StFX achieve gender parity in its student body and establish the Advisory Committee on the Status of Women. Enrollment was steadily increasing. Building on the work of Father MacDonell, who'd overseen the introduction of the Ed O'Connor Scholarship for students from Alberta, Father MacKinnon recognized the need for the expansion of scholarships and bursaries if the university was to attract students. During the 1980s, Father MacKinnon helped establish the Oland Scholarship with an estate gift from Philip Oland, the current value of which is now $1.7 million, as well as the Daniel and Margaret O'Brien Scholarship, which received a further boost from D. Brian O'Brien's estate this past year. Father MacKinnon must also be remembered for his work with Brian Mulrooney, a member of the StFX class of 1959. With the addition of female students to StFX proper, the athletic and recreational facilities were no longer sufficient, and the library's collection was rapidly growing. In 1979, the provincial government pledged $1.6 million towards a new pool, but with the proviso that the university first raise $1 million on its own. Brian Mulrooney was just embarking on his political career and agreed to lead the campaign, the largest undertaking of its kind that StFX had ever done. With Father MacKinnon, Mr. Mulrooney raised funds from alumni, faculty, staff, and the municipalities of Antigonish, Pictou, and Port Hawkesbury, as the community was at front of mind. They had a vision that school-age classes of children will enter the pool during normal university classroom hours to participate in a shared education learning experience with the students of the physical education faculty, and the pool was designed to be easily accessible for both educational, recreational, and therapeutic purposes. Father MacKinnon and Mr. Mulrooney's fundraising campaign, which raised more than $11 million in the end, also allowed StFX to double the size of the library with the addition of G. Richard Chater Hall, not to mention its significant contribution to the university's endowment. Together, they had achieved an ambitious goal that few others thought possible, a pattern that would be repeated 35 years later.